Minibus tout dies in Regent Street smash-up. Businessman slapped with attempted murder charges. Rohey slams government for 10% salary increase proposal. Dismembered body of farmer found on a Linden-Susdyke highway. Norton re-elected PNCR vice chairman and cross-dressers rob Kitty apartment building. Good evening, I'm Edward Lane with tonight's edition of the Evening News. A popular tout at the Kitty Camerville Bus Park succumbed to his injuries following a horrific accident involving a minibus and a motorcycle, which occurred on Saturday night at Regent Street, Georgetown. Dylan Linton, 21 of Lot 6 Stone Avenue, Georgetown, died on Sunday morning while receiving medical attention at the Georgetown Public Hospital. He was reportedly a passenger in the minibus that was reportedly drag racing when it came into contact with a motorcycle, thus causing it to topple several times before slamming into a utility pole at the corners of Albert and Regent Streets. At least 8 people were injured, including the driver, Timothy Andrews, a policeman who was off duty at the time. He was discharged and placed under close arrest. Those who were severely injured are Ronald Maxwell, 23, of Kitty, Georgetown, and the conductor of the ill-fated minibus, Manfred Jeffrey, 23, of Trinidad and Tobago, and Trevor Phillips, 22, of North Sophia, Greater Georgetown. It is believed that the driver and the conductor were both under the influence of alcohol at the time of the accident. Police are continuing their investigations. The businessman who indiscriminately opened fire on Tuesday last that led to the death of a minor and another who is hospitalized was earlier today arraigned for the murder and attempted murder. More from Kizzy Coleman.
Robert Ben of Lot 10, Perry Street, Tocqueville, Georgetown, appeared before Magistrate Laron Daly and was not required to plead to the indictable charges. In the first charge, the police alleged that on August 23, 2016, at Perry Street, Tocqueville, he murdered 24-year-old Colin Pereira, called Malcolm, of 213 Bar Street, Kitty, Georgetown. In addition, he was charged with attempted murder committed on Gillian Chacon, 20, of Port Kaituma, Northwest District. He was remanded to prison and will next appear before the Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan on September 16, 2016. On the night of the shooting, reports are that Chacon was driving Toyota Allion PRR 4393 and attempted to turn the vehicle around by using the businessman's bridge. However, as she turned onto the bridge, the businessman opened fire on the vehicle, killing Pereira and injuring Chacon. Pereira was shot multiple times about his body. The defendant reportedly told police that he felt threatened and thought that the vehicle contained bandits. However, residents in the area told police that the businessman has a bad temper. The police instituted the charges after recommendations from the Director of Public Prosecution. The injured young woman is still a patient at the Georgetown Public Hospital and is said to be in a critical condition. Reporting for the Evening News, Kizzy Coleman.
Thanks, Kizzy. Government's final offer of 10% salary increase for public servant is another betrayal of workers' interest, according to PPP General Secretary Clement Rohey. Here is more from Divina Samaru.
Despite being guilty of also offering insignificant salary increases when they were in government, PPP General Secretary Clement Rohey indicated that the 10% increase offered by the APNU AFC administration is a betrayal to the public service.
And this will no doubt be tantamount to another betrayal of the workers' interests.
He argued also that government's offer of a 10% increase is not reflective of what was promised during its election campaign.
The question that is to be asked is whether government's final offer is reflective of the 20% increase that was promised to public servants in the APNU AFC 2015 manifesto.
When prompted, Rohey justified the smaller increases which his administration offered during its tenure.
We must see the increases that was granted by the PPPC government administration, together with a whole host of other concessions that were granted, duty-free concessions for motor vehicles, land, house lots, and things like that, easy loans, the Because We Care program. In other words, there were a whole set of other concessions that were granted to workers in order to cushion whatever, plus every year they would get this big bonus increase. So
Rohey believes that the entire affairs of salary increase negotiations between the government and the Guyana Public Service Union is a sordid situation and called on the latter to to come clean.
The GPSU must come clean, and in the interest of transparency and accountability, explain to its members the true state of affairs in respect to the outcome of the negotiations and how the final offer was arrived at. The whole sordid affair of salary increases under the Granger administration is clearly another manifestation of meat for the boys, bones for the workers.
During the wage and salary negotiations, government proposed as its final offer a 10% increase for persons earning below $99,000 per month. The GPSU has agreed to consider this offer. Reporting for the Evening News, Davina Samaru.
The dismembered body of a farmer was this morning found along the Adventure Road, Linden-Soosdyke Highway, at about 5 hours 40. The corpse has since been identified to be that of Philip Viverius, 41, of Adventure. Based on reports, the man's limbs were severed from the body. Several other body parts were also detached. The Evening News understands that several body parts were found close to the body, while one arm was reportedly found a short distance away. Detectives were dispatched to the area and have launched an investigation. You're watching the Evening News. More still ahead after this break. Stay with us. If you've just joined us, you're watching the Evening News. Delegates of the People's National Congress Reform on Sunday re-elected embattled Public Health Minister Dr. George Norton as one of the two vice chairpersons of the party. More in this report.
Dr. Norton secured the position when party delegates voted for its leadership in the Central Executive Committee on Sunday. The minister has in recent days been taking flak for government over a deal it inked with Larry Singh's Linden Holding Inc. to pay some $12.5 million monthly for a Sussex Street property to store government's drugs and medical supplies. Dr. Norton secured 227 votes. Colleague Minister Valda Lawrence was also re-elected as the PNCR's other vice chairperson. Attorney James Bond, who had campaigned for the position on the platform of reining youths in the leadership of the party, managed to secure 148 votes. Former chairman of Region 4, Clement Corlett, another of the challengers for the vice chairmanship position, only managed to muster 8 votes. Party leader President David Granger was returned unopposed, as was Chairman Basil Williams. The PNCR over the weekend held its 19th biennial Congress at its headquarters at Congress Place, Sophia, Georgetown, which culminated with the elections of the party's leadership. The Congress this year boasted participation of some 625 delegates and 275 observers from 140 groups. During the first session, which was chaired by Vice Chairman Dr. George Norton, a moment of silence was observed in remembrance of party members who died over the last 2 years. The General Secretary's report was delivered by Oscar Clark, who informed the Congress on the state of the party, the work of its secretariat, and the major activities during the review period. Clark also informed Congress about plans for the 60th anniversary of the PNCR, which will be held on October 5, 2017. He declared that a special Congress will be the centerpiece of the celebrations, along with other activities at the central and regional levels. For the Evening News, Alexis Rodney.
In light of government's move to grant tax-free overtime to bauxite workers, the People's Progressive Party is also calling for this benefit to be extended to other private sector workers. Davina Samaru tells us more in this report.
People's Progressive Party General Secretary Clement Rohi said his party supports any move that will improve the economic and financial well-being of the working class. However, he posited that there should be no discrimination.
The PPP is of the view that tax-free overtime should be granted across the board without discrimination, and sugar workers should be no exception. The party calls on the Granger administration to extend similar concessions to all workers in order to bring some relief to their sufferings, which has become increasingly unbearable ever since the assumption to office by the APNU-AFC coalition administration.
Tax-exempted overtime for workers from the Bauxite Company of Guyana Incorporated was announced by the Social Protection Ministry recently. The decision followed a meeting with Social Protection Minister Valdo Lawrence, Junior Social Protection Minister Keith Scott, Chief Labor officials and executives from the Bauxite Company. Reporting for the Evening News, Davina Samaru.
Several armed men dressed in female attire executed a brazen robbery in an apartment building at Pierre Street, Kitty, Georgetown in the wee hours of Sunday. Based on reports, two persons walked into the apartment complex just after midnight and indicated their interest in renting a room. As the employee on duty was tending to them, one of the men whipped out a gun and ordered him to lie on the ground. They were later joined by three other men, all masked. The men relieved the employee of an undisclosed sum of cash, 2 mobile phones and other items, including a flat-screen television set and a quantity of cold beverages. They then made good their escape. The employee managed to untie himself and raise an alarm. The police are in the possession of the surveillance footage as they launched an investigation. Guyana has recently welcomed 86 new doctors who successfully completed their training under the Guyana-Cuba Medical Scholarship Program. Details in this report.
Junior Public Health Minister Dr. Karen Cummins witnessed the 86 graduates taking the Hippocratic Oath at the Arthur Chung Convention Center on Saturday. Delivering the feature address, State Minister Joseph Harmon urged the newest practitioners to commit themselves to selfless and dedicated service as they begin their professional careers. He also reminded that the Guyana-Cuba Medical Scholarship Program serves as a testimony of the good relationship between the two countries.
The Cuban Scholarship Program continues to perhaps be the greatest area of assistance, with the Medical Scholarship Program being the flagship project of training and support.
Harmon further highlighted that the hinterland areas of Guyana are also benefiting as there has been an increase in the number of doctors assigned to health centers there. Meanwhile, Public Health Minister Dr. George Norton says that graduates should strive harder to raise the quality of health care in Guyana and pointed out that government is committed to providing opportunities for doctors.
I wish to express gratitude to the government of Cuba for the support over the years in boosting Guyana's public healthcare system.
In his remarks, Cuban ambassador to Guyana, Julio Cesar Gonzalez Marchante, noted the importance of a solid relationship being maintained between Guyana and Cuba, adding that the Guyana-Cuba Medical Scholarship Program is a reflection of the solidarity between the two countries. The graduates were serenaded with music, reminding them of their time abroad. Over the last 10 years, a total of 700 doctors have graduated from the Guyana-Cuba Medical Scholarship Program. Shemuel Fanfare, The Evening News.
You're watching The Evening News. More still ahead after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching The Evening News. Over the years, Covan John Hindu College has been excelling at Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate examinations, and this year is no different. The Evening News caught up with the top student and father's report.
The college secured a 94% pass rate at this year's examination, with passes in grades 1 to 3. This achievement is commendable since the children who excelled were accepted to the institution with less than 400 marks that they attained at the National Grade 6 assessment. Principal of the institution, Rajkumari Singh, expressed her relatedness.
Why I'm particularly proud of the results at Hindu College, it's because the students who are taken into this school are not students who have the high scores at the grade 6 exams. These are students who will have just over 400 or sometimes below 300 marks and are sent to schools like Anns Grove Community High or Golden Grove Secondary or some other school or Baijival. But yet, when these students come here and they work for 5 years, and they do not have to go anywhere to have any extra lessons. Everything is done right in the school by the teachers here. And the discipline that we exercise in the school, I think, is responsible for them to be more one-pointed and to be concentrated.
Some of the students spoke with Evening News about the school's impact on them academically as well as spiritually.
Well, for my 5 years at Hindu College, it was great because I was able to develop not only in academics but also spiritually and morally due to the discipline of the school.
I wrote the CX examinations and I wrote 12 subjects where I obtained 5 grade 1s with 6 2s and 1 3.
And how do you feel about your performance?
I feel proud because it is through the hard work of my teachers and through financial support from my parents and through the grace of God that I have obtained these grades, and I'm very thankful for that.
This year I wrote 11 subjects and I obtained 6 grade 1s, 4 grade 2s and 1 grade 3.
And where do you travel from every day?
I travel from Haslington.
Here I wrote 12 subjects at this year's CSEC examinations. I attained 4 grade 1s and 6 grade 2s.
How has your journey been at the school?
It was very unfortunate that I only spent 2 years at the school, but it proved to be very successful for me.
It's very long and stressful, but I normally try to make it.
Okay, and what do you think about the teachings here at the school?
It's very good. They pay a lot of attention to you.
I'm very proud. I feel satisfied because my parents work hard and the teachers also work hard to make us successful.
The Hindu College was established in 1957 by Swami Purnandanand and has since made a significant difference in the lives of those who were considered to be underachievers. The school not only charges nominal fees for students to attend, but it also provides sponsorship for those who may not be able to afford it. Ramona Luthi reporting for the Evening News.
Here is Ramona Luthi once again, but this time she tells us that the Guyana Police Force hosted its annual bursary ceremony for the children of members of the force who would have excelled at the recent National Grade 6 assessment. More in this report.
Attending the ceremony were representatives from the Education Ministry, members of the Guyana Police Force, and awardees of the bursary. In his speech directed to the children at the ceremony, Acting Commissioner of the Guyana Police Force, David Ramnarine, placed emphasis on the need for them to be engaged in excessive reading, highlighting that, quote, there is a significant distinction between education and qualification, end of quote.
Today, I want to tell you to fall into the habit of doing serious reading, because reading will play the most important role in your personality development hereafter.
He further charged them to read and understand, but more so acquire knowledge, as this makes one more informed. Ramnarine also advised the students to be grateful to their parents for the sacrifices they have made to allow them the opportunity to have an education.
And not only reading for pleasure, reading for understanding, reading to acquire knowledge that will make you a better individual, a more informed individual. These days, it's so sad that persons with supposedly a sufficiency of education can conduct the most heinous of crimes, can display the most reprehensible behavior in society.
Also speaking at the ceremony on behalf of the Ministry of Education was the former Deputy Registrar of the University of Guyana, Vincent Alexander, who congratulated the Guyana Police Force for having the awards on an annual basis.
More particularly, the force should be congratulated because these awards are made possible by the labor of the officers of the Guyana Police Force. This is not a government subvention. It is the officers making a contribution for money that they would have worked for. And I think it's worthy of commendation that they've exhibited this unselfish act of making such a contribution and making the awards possible.
Alexander also reiterated Ramnarine's statement to the children, highlighting that education was not determined by the acquisition of certificates.
Education is that which equips a human being to deal not only with a job, but with all of the challenges presented to us in life and in the world. The knowledge we need to face those challenges, the skills we need to face those challenges, the competencies we need to face those challenges, the values we need to be a framework within which we face those challenges, the beliefs that should guide the way in which we see life and those challenges, and the habits that become a part of us are all derived from education.
He concluded by explaining that education would lead to the reduction in crime and encourage them to take their learning seriously. Ramona Luti reporting for the Evening News.
Now for a look at what is happening inside the courts with Kisi Coleman.
Steve Fetku, 31 of 651 East Rumville, Georgetown, was earlier today charged with causing the death of his reputed wife, Shauna Rice, by driving dangerously. He pleaded not guilty to the charge which alleged that on April 9, 2016, at the junction of East Rumville Public Road, he drove an unregistered motorcycle in a manner dangerous to the public, causing the death of Shauna Rice. The court heard that the defendant was previously charged for driving dangerously. The man, who has been on crutches since the accident, was granted bail at $200,000. He was asked to lodge his passport at the court and is scheduled to make his next appearance on September 13, 2016. On the night of the accident, the defendant and the now dead woman were looking for their son, who went missing but ended up in a two-vehicle collision. The 7-year-old boy was taken to a relative's home without informing his parents. Additionally, Dion Chan, 29, and 17-year-old Shamar Charles of Agricola was earlier today slapped with a firearm possession charge when they appeared before Magistrate Laron Daly at the Georgetown Magistrates Courts. They pleaded not guilty to the charge which alleged that on August 26, 2016 at Golden Grove, East Bank, Demerara, while being in the company of others, they were in possession of a firearm, that is to say, one-shot gun, without being the holder of a gun license. The prosecution contended that the police searched a vehicle that the defendants were in and discovered the gun in the trunk of the car. The other occupants of the vehicle managed to escape. Chan was granted $250,000 bail and Charles $150,000 bail. Both men will next appear in court on September 9, 2016. Finally, in the courts, Mario Figueiro, a businessman, and Yo Quinn, a Brazilian, was today charged with trafficking in person. They pleaded not guilty to the charges which alleged that between August 18 and 24, 2016, at Providence, Georgetown, they engaged in trafficking in person, that is to say, they recruited, transported, and harbored 9 women for the purpose of sexual exploitation. The prosecution objected to bail, noting that the defendants pose a flight risk, but mostly on the grounds that the women reported that they were all threatened at gunpoint by Figueiro. The 2 defendants were initially remanded to prison, but were granted $120,000 bail each after their represented attorney pleaded for this. That is a wrap for this edition of Evening News Inside the Courts. I am Kizzy Coleman.
Police Constable Ravindra B. Cesar, 26 of Good Intent, West Bank, Demerara, reappeared at the Wales Magistrates Court to plead on a charge of causing death by dangerous driving. He pleaded not guilty to the charge, which stated that on May 15 at Sisters Village, West Bank, Demerara, he drove motorcar PLL 222 in a dangerous manner, thus causing the death of David Stanley. He was initially placed on $600,000 bail. At court today, Magistrate Clive Nurse set September 9 for reports and fixtures. On the day in question, Cesar, who was stationed at the Wales Police Station, was attempting to negotiate a turn at Sisters Village when he lost control of the vehicle and slammed into the lad who was riding along the roadway en route to his father's home. In a matter of days, the new academic school year will commence, and a non-governmental organization called Give Another Chance recently distributed school supplies to children in East Ruimveldt, Georgetown. More in this report.
The Back to School initiative commenced earlier this week in Wakenham and is expected to reach throughout the country. Less fortunate children in many communities benefited from the donation as they prepare for the new school year. Speaking at the event, the Councillor of East and West Ruimveldt, Tricia Richards, commended the efforts by the organization for the gesture.
I must say that I'm honored this afternoon to be here, to be a part of such a positive activity that basically empowers children to do better and be better. within their respective communities. And to make sure that as we go about on the quest to do better and be better, we cannot do that without education. So this afternoon, I'm happy to be here, and I also want to say thank you to Give Another Chance Foundation to being a part of East Wrongville and empowering the children this afternoon to come and go back to school come September by equipping them with the necessary school supplies to make going back to school possible come September.
Member of the Give Another Chance Foundation, Melissa Roberts, widely known as Vanilla, spoke of what can be expected from the foundation.
Give Another Chance Foundation is a non-profit, non-governmental organization. We have built a track record of more than 5 years in helping to improve lives of children in regions 1, 3, 4, and 5. We are committed to providing basic education from preschool to university and healthcare to underprivileged children in rural and urban communities. Over the years, GACF have provided free lessons for students, covered full tuition for the top student of Wakenham to attend the University of Guyana. We've shared Christmas joys during the season. I think this is one of the communities that would have benefited from that. And we have a whole list of things that we've been doing over the 5 years.
The foundation has already distributed computers, books, bags, and school shoes to many communities. Reporting for the Evening News, Kizzy Coleman.
Thank you very much, Kizzy. Join us after the break for your regional and international news. Stay with us.